Welcome to Bible Believers Fellowship and the ministry of bbfohio.com as we begin this special study by Brother Stephen Miller titled with a question, Should Christians Own and Carry Weapons of Any Kind? If you have any questions, comments, or prayer requests, please send those by email to bbfohio@yahoo.com or send them by U.S. Postal to P.O. Box 662, Worthington, Ohio 43085. And now we begin our study with Brother Stephen Miller teaching, titled with a question, Should Christians Own and Carry Weapons of Any Kind? This is part one of two.
So really, actually, the title of, we could do a question as the title. How about that? She already wrote what was the title? So the title of the lesson is going to be, Should Christians Own and Carry Weapons of Any Kind? How about just own weapons? So, okay. So that's a good question. Doug said, of course. So, I'm sorry? Adjust this microphone. Doug said it, so why go on? And basically, this is a topic that I've done quite a bit of background study on the secular part, where just from a moral standpoint, you know, in society, Christians and actually everybody, atheists, non-Christians, Muslims, every single person on the face of the earth should arm themselves, and arm themselves very well. And you might think, oh, you know, gosh, why should it's like I said, Muslims. Well, Muslims need to defend themselves also, and we're gonna see that self-defense is in the Bible. It's taught in the Bible. Sorry, I interrupted myself. It's you know you want to hear yourself. Actually, it's very distracting. But we're going to see that self-defense is taught in the Bible for New Testament Christians. It's given time and time again in the Old Testament. We're gonna see examples of when people didn't have weapons to defend themselves and what happened. We're going to see examples of what happened when men armed themselves and fought back. And so we're going to start with the question: Should Christians own and carry weapons of any kind? Should you have a gun? Should you have a knife? Should you have a club? You know, we live in America where, in America, the Constitution recognizes, the United States Constitution and most state constitutions recognize the human right to defend themselves, and to defend themselves with overwhelming firepower. And I say that because I say overwhelming fire, not just guns, okay? Or knives, or clubs, or sticks, or whatever. I mean overwhelming firepower. You have the right to overwhelm your attacker. That's a human right. It's not just an American right. The United States Constitution only recognizes what's already there. That has to be understood by our international audience. You know, the Constitution does not grant us rights. It recognizes what's already there. So in America, especially if you're taught properly in America, you understand that the Constitution is there to recognize what's already there, not to grant. Okay, the Constitution doesn't do anything. It's just a piece of paper. It only recognizes and limits the government. So in any proper Constitution, will do that. In the last year, maybe year and a half, maybe 2 years, I've become very upset with the nation of England, or the Great Britain. And I know that we have people who, our ancestors, or they were born in Great Britain, in this room, and they'll tell you that they're upset too. Amen. Because of what the people did. So I remember from history a man by the name of Obadiah Holmes, who was lashed for having an unregulated Bible study. I think he was whipped 30 times or something like that, 30 or 39, something like that. They wouldn't whip him 40 because that would be a death sentence. It was considered a death sentence. And then just a month ago, what was that? Tommy Robinson. Tommy Robinson was thrown in prison for speaking his mind. Or actually, he wasn't even talking. He was recording. He was basically, he's a reporter. Tommy Robinson is a reporter who was thrown in jail for reporting on proceedings happening in a courthouse. That's what he was, that was his crime. And then if you were to report on him reporting, then you would have been thrown in jail. Just so you know. If you, every single person here, and actually me now, I'm going to be on the YouTube. If I go to Great Britain, now that this is going to be uploaded onto YouTube, I've reported on Tommy Robinson reporting on this crime. So now I've violated British law, and I'll be thrown in jail if I set foot in England. I've just done it. I also have a knife. That's right. A knife. A dangerous, deadly weapon. It's a DeWalt, actually. It's a DeWalt knife, yeah. Which if anybody knows what, if any knife experts are out there, they'll be like, so what? You bought a $10 knife, whatever. So, okay, so the question is, should the man of God arm themselves with any type of weapon whatsoever? So we have, what's the denomination? They don't do weapons. The Quakers? They're just one of them. They're the Mennonites. Oh, you missed the thing where we played the music, so that's okay. So, yeah, so whatever we're paying you to do, just keep doing it and keep getting paid the same amount of money, and that'll be you being fired. So I want you to turn. Okay, you don't have to turn there, but Matthew 5:9 says. Oh, okay. Matthew 5:9 says, "Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the children of God." So we are the children of God. Christians are, and shouldn't we be peacemakers? Yeah. So let's. We're gonna have to do a quick study on peace because this is one of the Bible verses that they throw in our face. They say, "Hey, you're Christians. You're supposed to be peaceful. You're supposed to not fight. You're supposed to not be confrontational. You're supposed to give in." And I say, well, are we supposed to be a doormat? Are we supposed to just let people walk all over us? Are we supposed to just, the Bible says, turn the other cheek? Are we supposed to do that? Oh, Matthew 5:9. It's it's a part of Jesus' constitution. So this is the kingdom constitution in Matthew. But are Christians supposed to, that turn the other cheek reference? That wasn't to, what Jesus was talking about there. He wasn't necessarily talking about being assaulted. He was talking, he wasn't talking about a life-threatening situation. He wasn't talking about, so a Christian is supposed to go the extra mile. But we're going to see that, we're going to see what God says about peace, and we're going to see what Jesus says about peace and what the Bible says about peace. So Christians are supposed to live in peace. We are supposed to be peaceful. Okay, so go to Romans chapter 12. We'll go to Romans 12, verse 18. So we're going to see what peace is and how a Christian can live in peace. And Romans 12:18, it says, "If it be possible, as much as lieth in you, live peaceably with all men." Now, I've seen situations where neighbors have been upset with each other because they cut their grass wrong, or one cut down a tree differently, or maybe they have a fire or a barbecue every day and the smoke comes over. And, well, the Christian marches his little tail over there and says, "Hey, You need to put some water on that fire. What's wrong with you? You know, why'd you cut that tree down? What's the name of that senator? Is Rand Paul. Rand Paul and his neighbor. Rand Paul got assaulted by his neighbor because they wouldn't, you know, as much as lieth in you, live peaceably. So we shouldn't be going out of our way to make trouble. You know, we shouldn't go out of our way to make trouble with our family or our friends or our wife or our husband. You shouldn't be poking the bear, as they say, because the bear's got teeth, and that's a bad thing. The bear will eat you. Don't poke the bear. Don't do things that there's no reason, as much as lieth within you. Just live peaceably. You can leave. You can change. If you have to move. If you have to change jobs. There's in the Ohio Constitution, they call it the obligation to retreat, which I believe we don't have anymore, an obligation to retreat, but there's a castle doctrine and all that kind of stuff. But this is what the Bible's talking about. If you can get out of a situation, get out of it. Live peaceably. So go to Romans 14:19. So you shouldn't be antagonizing people. That's basically what that says. So we don't have to antagonize people. We don't throw guns in their faces. So here in Romans 14:19 it says, "Let us therefore follow after the things which make for peace, and the things wherewith one may edify another." So we're supposed to follow after the things that make for peace. Okay, go to 2 Corinthians 13:11. I'll try and get there. I brought my small Bible because of this light. I can't maneuver with my big Bible. 13:11 says, at the end of 2 Corinthians says, "Finally, brethren, farewell, be perfect, be of good comfort, be of one mind, live in peace, and the God of love and peace shall be with you." So we're supposed to live in peace. So that begs the question: what is peace? What is this peace that the Bible's talking about? Well, obviously, if you study peace, you'll understand that there's several different types of peace. But we're gonna talk about what the world thinks peace is. So go to Romans chapter 3. So the world has no clue. They won't even pick up a dictionary to find out what peace is. And I'm not gonna, I don't have a whole bunch of slides because my computer doesn't work, and the congregation won't buy me a new one. Hint. But that's okay. So, poor Stephen. I could buy a new one. It's not a big deal. Actually, I don't teach enough to have one. So Romans 13:10 is, we're going to talk about the world. They don't even know what peace is. So when somebody says, "Hey, you're a Christian, you shouldn't carry a knife, you shouldn't carry a gun, you're supposed to be peaceful." Well, the problem is these guys have no idea what they're talking about. I had one time I was riding on the bus, and there was something that needed to be cut open, a bag of candy. I was trying to open this bag of candy, and I was like, "Man, forget this." I took out my knife, I opened the bag of candy, and I started passing out candy, and just the shock of horror was on this little bus kid. He said, "Man, Christians aren't supposed to carry knives. Knives are dangerous." Do you know, how many of you have accidentally cut themselves? Okay. Now, how many of you have accidentally shot themselves? Jim, put your hand down. Okay, so knives are dangerous? Yes, knives are dangerous. And none of you in this room has accidentally shot themselves, but just about every single one has accidentally cut themselves. So you got to think about which is more dangerous. Are you going to accidentally shoot yourself? Mariah cuts her hand every week. We have regular blood transfusions. We know the people at the Red Cross. I mean, it's they know her by they're on first name basis. So and we give back. You got to give back some blood. She walks into an emergency room. She plops down a whole bunch of blood. I'll tell you that much. It's a mess. So don't cook with Mariah. She'll kill you. Have you seen the videos? Do you still have those videos up on? Don't open boxes. Don't ever open boxes with Mariah. Okay, so Romans 3:10. This is the world. This is what the world knows. 3:10. Romans 3:10. It says in Romans 3:10. This is Paul describing the world. It says, "As is written, there is none righteous, no, not one. There is none that understandeth." Most people know this from soul winning. So there is none that understandeth. There is none that seeketh after God. They are all gone out of the way. They are altogether become unprofitable. There is none that doeth good, no, not one. Their throat is an open sepulchre. With their tongues they have used deceit. The poison of asps is under their lips. An asp is like a snake. It's a venomous snake. So they have poison. So, whose mouth is full of cursing and bitterness. Their feet are swift to shed blood. Destruction and misery are in their ways. And the way of peace have they not known. The world has no idea what peace is. So they'll say that peace is a Christian being completely walked over and us completely giving away. And it is not. Peace is, well, we're gonna find out what it is. So go to Romans 8:6. So we're still studying about the world. Romans 8:6. It says, "For to be carnally minded is death, but to be spiritually minded is life and peace." Life and peace. So if you're spiritually minded, you know life and peace. If you're carnally minded, you only know death. So that's why carnally minded people kill their children. Amen. So God gives peace. So we're going to see where, go to Romans 15:33. So God gives peace and he takes peace away. God is the author of peace. He is the giver of peace and he is the taker of peace. Peacefulness can only come from God, not from the world, not from the United Nations. We can see that here in Romans 15:33. It says, "Now the God of peace be with you all." He is a God of peace. Okay, he gives peace. Now look in Revelation 6:4. Go all the way back to the back of the book. He giveth and taketh away. If he can give it, he's like the government. You know, if he can give you a food stamp, he can take your food stamps away. So, Revelation 6:4 says, and there, I'm sorry, yeah, am I right? Yeah, 6:4. "And there went out another horse that was red. The power was given to him that sat thereon to take peace from the earth, and that they should kill one another. And there was given unto him a great sword." So when God took peace from the earth, what did they do? They just killed one another. So there you have it. He took peace away. So the world has no idea what peace is. Jesus is the only way to peace. Jesus Christ himself. Go to John 16:33. You don't have to write any of this stuff down. We'll get to the juicy stuff here in a minute. So it's a very short sermon because I want to get to questions if you have questions. John 16, verse 33. 16:33, Jesus says, "These things have I spoken unto you, that in me ye might have peace. In the world ye shall have tribulation, but be of good cheer, I have overcome the world." Only Jesus can bring peace. When Jesus Christ came down as a little baby, he was peace on earth. When he ascended into heaven, there was no peace anymore. That peace is sitting at the right hand of the Father in heaven right now. So Jesus is the only one that gives peace. The United Nations cannot bring peace on earth. Gun-free zones cannot bring peace. Anti-bullying campaigns cannot bring peace. Good feelings can't bring peace. common sense gun laws cannot bring peace. Just Jesus. Do you know that, I think you talked about it last week, Greg, or Sunday, that it was just, I think 2 months ago, 2 months ago, London actually had more knife attacks or knife crime, knife murders, or actually I think it was suspected murders. London, England, not London, Ohio, not where I live. But London, Ohio had more suspected murders, and they say suspected murders because it takes time to figure out whether it is a murder or not. But there's an investigation. London, England had more suspected murders than New York City. And that's a big thing because it's interesting because New York City has some of the strictest gun laws in the nation, and yet they still have some of the highest crime rates, and they have some of the highest gun-related fatalities. They have some of the highest rates of rape. They have some of the highest rates of murder anywhere in this country. And that's unfair because it's a very big city. It's hard to bring statistics against that city versus another city in the United States, or even to compare states to each other. But you can compare London with London, England, with New York, New York, because they're about the same size. They're about the same size. They have now New York City has a lot more diverse population than London, England, but London, England is pretty much, white European. Well, it's turning Muslim now, yeah. But no, I mean that the majority is white Europeans, and that's not true with New York City. But in London, England has, I would say, some of the most strict gun laws in the world. You can have guns in England, if you call them that, but it's very. Let's just say you have to get permission. So, and that's something that I believe is satanic. You should not have to get permission to have a firearm. It's a human right to be able to protect yourself and to protect yourself with overwhelming firepower. Overwhelming firepower brings peace. Okay, we're gonna see that. I'm gonna show you where in the Bible where overwhelming firepower brings peace. Okay, what do we think about the Cold War? Why didn't the United States and the Soviet Union go to war in a hot war? Why? Anybody want to know? Nuclear weapons. Do you remember all the anti-bomb campaigns? Ban the bomb. That was the only thing keeping peace. MAD. Yeah, that's right. Mutually assured destruction. It's mutually assured. If we fired a missile at them, they would fire a missile at us. We had early warning systems where if the Russians attacked us, we knew about it, and we would kill every single man, woman, and child in Russia. And they would kill every single man, woman, and child in the United States. What did that do? That created the most peaceful century that we've ever known. It's half century, actually. Yeah, half century. We went from 1900 to 1945 was the most bloody 50-year period in all of mankind. And then we go from 1945 to the year 2000 was the most peaceful. Now, there were wars, but you couldn't fight. You couldn't fight a world war. Not after that. You couldn't do huge nation versus huge nation or huge alliance. We had NATO, which is one of the most powerful alliances of all time, and then you have the Warsaw Pact, one of the most powerful alliances of all time, and those were after World War II ended. The two most powerful groups of all time had more firepower at that time than all the rest of history combined. And they were peaceful with each other. The reason why is because of overwhelming firepower and mutually assured destruction. So they had the door locked and guns pointed out. And we had our door locked and guns pointed out. And we said, you cross this line, we kill you. And then they said, you cross this line, we kill you. And we said, okay, we'll stay on our own side. Peace. Okay? Now we're going to see that in the Bible where we're going to see this overwhelming firepower concept. And it works. When the right people have guns, there is peace. Actually, I have a story. back when I lived off of Riverbend Road, Mariah was there. We were watching TV at night, and I hear this screaming and yelling outside. And what had happened was somebody was dragging another person right in front of our house. They were dragging them down the street, and they were going to go take them to wherever and do whatever with them. And it was a man dragging another man. I think what happened was there was some vigilantism going on. And I think what happened was this guy who was being dragged down the street had done something bad. I don't know what happened. But my neighbor went out and said, "Hey, let the guy go." And so the guy was like, "Hey, I'm not going to let him go." And he kept on dragging him. And then finally more neighbors came out, and they were like, "Hey, what are you doing? Let the guy go." And I finally came out, and I yelled at the guy. I said, "Hey, you need to let him go right now. We've called the police. You need to leave. Get out of our neighborhood. What are you doing? This is right at the end of my driveway. And it's like 10 o'clock at night." And so the guy dropped him, and he went running away as fast as he could. And then the other guy who was dragging the one guy, he looked at me and said, "Oh, okay, you want some of this?" And he started marching towards me. So you know what I did? I pulled up my AK-47 and racked it one time. He said, "Oh, I'll see you guys later." And he left. Peace. Peace. There can be peace in our time. As famous words of Neville Chamberlain. Peace in our time. That's a man who did not follow the biblical principle of overwhelming firepower. The biblical principle. Okay, I'm going to show you here in a second. He carried paper. Yeah, he was a white paper. Yeah. So, all right. So notice that Jesus says that he's going to overcome the world. So down here in John 16:33, Jesus says, "But be of good cheer, I have overcome the world." Now, how did he do that? How do you overcome the world? So go to Romans 16:20. Go back up to Romans 16:20. And it says, "And the God of peace shall bruise Satan under your feet shortly. The grace of our Lord Jesus Christ be with you. Amen." Well, there you go. The God of peace shall bruise. Okay, that's interesting. Well, how are we going to be peaceful if we're going to bruise? Mark and I, we like to fight. So Mark likes to fight a little bit more than me, but we don't like to fight each other. We just like to fight other people. But let's say that Mark and I are in a fight. Let's say that Mark and I are in a fight, and he punches me in the face. Let's just say you punch me in the face and you bruise my face. Is that peace? Well, if he knocks me out, it's peaceful for him and it's peaceful for me. We stop fighting. Okay? That's peaceful. Okay? So the God of peace goes to war with Satan. Okay, go to Revelation chapter 20. The God of peace. Keep that in mind. Revelation chapter 20. He is the God of peace. You can, if you search out God of peace, you'll find it, 10 or 15 times just in the New Testament. God of peace. Jesus Christ is peace in the flesh. But let's go to Revelation 16:20, verse 2. It says, "And he laid hold on the dragon, that old serpent, which is the devil and Satan, and bound him 1,000 years, and cast him into the bottomless pit, and shut him up, and set a seal upon him, that he should not deceive the nations." That he should deceive the nations no more, till the 1,000 years should be fulfilled, and after that he must be loosed a little season.